In an unexpected move, China decided to halt interactions with the $40 billion US car industry, sending shockwaves through global markets. This decision disrupted long-standing trade channels, challenging manufacturers who relied heavily on these connections to sustain production and meet consumer demands. Automotive firms faced immense pressure to rapidly reassess their supply chains and explore new strategies, and consumers found themselves at the receiving end of these disruptions, facing higher prices and limited choices. As the industry grappled with these challenges, questions arose about the future of car ownership and the shift towards sustainable mobility solutions. With international automotive cooperation in flux, the industry stands at a critical juncture. How will manufacturers mitigate such disruptions in the future? What changes will consumers see in their vehicle choices? And how did we get here? The United States automobile industry has long been a cornerstone of the country's economy, a powerhouse churning out Fords, Chevrolets, and Cadillacs that have roared through the annals of time. This industry, with its assembly lines humming like clockwork, has symbolized American ingenuity and industrial might, creating jobs and fueling dreams on asphalt highways stretching far and wide. Yet just like a classic car showing the first signs of age, the once unassailable dominance of the US car industry has met the fierce competition of global markets, none more so than China's rapidly ascending automotive sector. From the Model T to electric vehicles, the US has always been at the forefront of automotive innovation. However, as we rolled into the 21st century, a new player arrived on the scene, eager and full of ambition. China, with its vast resources and burgeoning economy, stepped into the spotlight. Initially, collaboration ensued. American and Chinese manufacturers began partnerships, sharing technology and expertise, forging alliances aimed at capturing the ever-elusive market share. It was a time of cautious optimism, yet underlying competitive tensions simmered, whispering tales of an inevitable rivalry. Rise of China's automotive dominance. In recent decades, China's automotive industry has quietly and effectively bolstered its foundations, growing from a modest player to a global titan. Initially, Chinese companies focused on expanding domestic sales, capitalizing on the country's massive population and growing middle class. However, the ambitions of China's automakers extended far beyond their borders. Investing heavily in research and development, they focused on new technologies, especially electric vehicles and green innovations, sensing an opportunity to leapfrog into the future rapidly. The Chinese government played a crucial role in this acceleration, offering subsidies and incentives to local manufacturers, while strategically positioning China as a hub for electric vehicle innovation. Companies like BYD and NIO are now synonymous with electric car advancements, challenging Western traditionalists and causing ripples in the status quo. As Chinese automakers penetrated international markets, undercutting prices with affordable, technically advanced models, it became clear that the global balance was shifting. Economic and political factors. Diving deeper into the web of economic and political intricacies that have played a part in these developments unveils a story marked by tariffs, trade agreements, and international diplomacy. The United States and China have been engaged in a complex dance, their economic policies influencing not just each other, but rippling across the world's economy. Tariffs have often been wielded as bargaining chips, each country vying to protect its interests while trying not to tip the scale too drastically. However, with each trade agreement or dispute, significant ripples are felt throughout the industries reliant on international cooperation. The automotive sector, with its extensive supply chains and multinational investments, is particularly sensitive. The back-and-forth negotiations have sometimes acted as a brake on its cruise control, leading manufacturers to rethink production lines, sourcing strategies, and market focuses. Economists speak of these dynamics in terms of high-stakes poker, where strategies shift as quickly as the winds of political change. The trigger event. And then there was the shift, not entirely unforeseen, but shocking nonetheless, like a sudden downpour on a cloudless day. The strategic maneuver that would see China placing an effective blockade on the United States car industry sent shockwaves that reverberated instantly across the global landscape. With deft precision, Chinese policy decisions shuttered the avenues for the American automotive titans, causing the sprawling industry worth billions to come to an uneasy halt. The reactions were swift and varied. Within boardrooms and factory floors alike, there was an immediate pivot towards damage control, the hum of strategies being reworked filling the spaces once occupied by the rhythm of unfaltering production lines. Leaders stepped forward, some offering diplomatic solutions, others taking a more confrontational stance. What was clear, however, was that the world had witnessed a seismic shift, one that would redefine automotive corridors, signaling the start of an uncertain journey. Immediate repercussions. The impact impact of China's decisive move on United States car manufacturers was immediate and profound, akin to a sudden jolt in a stationary vehicle. American automotive giants like General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, long accustomed to a steady flow of operations, were now grappling with an abrupt halt in their tracks. Assembly lines that once whirred with the melodious hum of productivity fell silent, leaving thousands of skilled hands idle and anxious as they faced an uncertain horizon. For iconic manufacturers, the implications were multifaceted. The shutdown not only disrupted production schedules, but also posed profound questions about future strategies and sustainability. Executives who once made bold bets on a seamless future integration of global markets were now faced with reevaluating supply chains, logistics, and market penetration strategies. The financial repercussions rippled outward, impacting not only the company's bottom lines, but also affecting stakeholder confidence and stock valuations, as investors recalibrated their outlooks amid the unfolding crisis. The human aspect was equally stark. Thousands of workers who found purpose and livelihood within these factories faced uncertain futures. The layoffs and temporary plant closures rattled communities, where such facilities acted as economic lifelines. In industry towns, the closure meant more than financial woes. It heralded a cultural shift, altering lifestyles formed around the rhythm of the auto clock. Families that had long depended on the stability provided by automotive jobs now confronted challenging decisions about relocation and career shifts. Furthermore, local businesses that thrived around these manufacturing hubs, cafes, repair shops, suppliers, felt the tremors. Each idle factory cast a long shadow, affecting not just those directly employed, but the broader community fabric. Effect on consumers. American consumers began feeling the pinch as the shutdown precipitated shortages and marked changes in car prices. Stepping into dealership lots, potential buyers were met with unusually sparse displays and spikes in vehicle pricing, reflective of deeper supply chain disruptions. Those eyeing specific models found themselves at a standstill, grappling with waiting lists and uncertainty about future deliveries. Beyond availability, the ripple effects of scarcity influenced consumer behavior. Shifts in priorities became evident as buyers leaned towards more readily accessible brands, many of which stemmed from regions unaffected by the US-China standoff. Brand loyalty, once held steadfast, faced new tests. Consumers, adrift in this sea of change, began exploring alternatives, including increased interest in secondhand vehicles and burgeoning interest in emergent technologies like electric and autonomous vehicles. For EV enthusiasts, the post-shutdown landscape offered both promise and challenge. While the demand for sustainable transport options surged, the infrastructure supporting these vehicles reeled under pressure. Charging networks, battery availability, and service frameworks scrambled to keep pace with growing interest, all contributing to the evolving mobility narrative in response to this industry shock. Global market reactions. The reverberations weren't confined to American shores. The global automotive market awoke to a paradigm shift triggered by the shutdown. Allies and competitors alike watched closely, assessing how shifts in the US-China dynamic might redefine international trade corridors and market opportunities. For European and Japanese car manufacturers, old competitors, the closure signaled both caution and opportunity. Eyeing the space vacated by their transatlantic counterparts, many rushed to fill the void, offering their models as an alternative to suddenly scarce American brands. Yet this pivot was not without its own challenges. Manufacturing capabilities labored to scale operations, and fears of resource hoarding and protectionism rose sharply. Markets across Asia, Latin America, and beyond experienced shifts in consumer preferences, fundamentally altering automotive landscapes. As currencies adjusted to reflect these macroeconomic shocks, the stock markets flickered, responding to both aggravated risks and burgeoning opportunities. Investors, compelled by the potential returns of a realigned industry, navigated these turbulent waters with cautious optimism. Questions arose. Could rising vehicle costs lead to market saturation, or might new technologies and emission policies redefine what cars symbolize in society? The answers, elusive as ever, whispered promises of bold new frontiers, a challenge as well as a beckoning opportunity. Governmental interventions. In the face of this industrial earthquake, the United States government moved swiftly to assess and mitigate the economic fallout. High-level negotiations discussions took place in the corridors of power as policymakers deliberated on actions to protect the beleaguered domestic car industry. Discussions spanned across trade negotiations, protective tariffs, and economic relief packages aimed at cushioning the significant impact on states heavily dependent on automotive manufacturing. The urgency was palpable, as the industry's health was intricately tied to national economic stability and millions of livelihoods. Diplomatic channels buzzed with activity as officials sought to reopen lines of communication with their Chinese counterparts, a delicate task as every overture required balancing national interests with global trade sensibilities. Politicians traded barbs across aisle divides, each advancing ideas on how best to reclaim the American automotive scene, from tax incentives for domestic production to streamlined regulations that would foster innovation and competitiveness. The stakes were high, with each decision potentially shaping the future landscape of the automotive sector. Amidst the political discourse, however, was a shared understanding of the gravity of the situation. This was not merely about cars, but about the people and communities they supported. This realization underscored the urgency for lasting solutions and the stakes of restoring industry confidence. The collapse was not just a corporate issue, but a social one, with reverberations felt in schools, community centers, and homes across America. It was a reminder of the profound connections between economic policy and everyday life. Various policy changes were proposed, aiming to protect the automotive industry from future vulnerabilities while fostering innovation. This included initiatives to boost electric vehicle manufacturing and incentives to lead the charge in clean energy transportation. Additionally, investment in domestic infrastructure, such as advanced manufacturing facilities and smart grid systems, was highlighted as essential for long-term resilience. Support for automotive workers through reskilling programs became a focal point, ensuring a workforce adept at navigating an evolving industrial landscape. These measures hope to transform a period of adversity into one of unprecedented growth and adaptation, restructuring the U.S. car economy. As the dust began to settle from the initial impact, a resilient American auto industry started charting a course toward recovery. This journey, however, required not only a reassessment of immediate priorities, but also a bold reimagining of the industry's future. Amidst adversity lay the opportunity for a renaissance driven by innovation, adaptation, and a sustainable vision. American car manufacturers, once the flag bearers of traditional manufacturing methods, began exploring cutting-edge technologies to rejuvenate their operations. There was a renewed emphasis on automation, lean manufacturing processes, and sustainability initiatives aiming to streamline operations and reduce reliance on international supply chains. This restructure was not merely about survival, but marked a commitment to long-term evolution, an evolution that demanded agility, creativity, and collaboration. Collaboration came in various forms, from partnerships with tech startups focused on autonomous driving and artificial intelligence to joint ventures with renewable energy companies aimed at greening the entire supply chain. As boundaries between technology and auto sectors blurred, a new era of smart vehicles emerged. Hybrid systems, electric powertrains, and energy-efficient designs were no longer futuristic dreams, but became the critical lifelines of a restructured industry. The restructuring also encouraged deeper engagement with academic institutions and research bodies. Universities became a critical part of the ecosystem, offering expertise and facilitating knowledge transfer. Research and development budgets in car companies swelled, fostering innovation in materials science, propulsion technologies, and data analytics. Meanwhile, workforce transformation programs sought to upskill automotive workers, integrating digital literacy, robotics understanding, and AI proficiencies into traditional skill sets. This transformation was not without its challenges. Adapting to new technologies and systems required significant investment and cultural shifts within organizations. Employees needed to embrace continuous learning and adaptability, as the industry of the future demanded a workforce that could pivot with technological advancements. Moreover, the regulatory landscape evolved alongside these changes, with new policies emerging to govern autonomous vehicles, cybersecurity standards, and data privacy. Future of U.S.-China automotive relations. Amidst these transformations, the question of how to navigate the rocky terrain of U.S.-China automotive relations persisted, a delicate balance of competition and potential collaboration. Industry leaders and policymakers alike grappled with envisioning a future state that both nations could accept, fostering cooperation yet acknowledging shared tensions. Dialogue channels, although strained, provided glimpses of potential collaboration, with both nations recognizing the potential synergy in addressing global challenges challenges like climate change. Chinese and American automotive sectors explored partnerships in research and development, especially in areas like battery technology and emission standards, hoping these collaborations could bridge differences and promote collective advancement. Nevertheless, both countries remained wary of each other's strategic objectives, necessitating diplomatic finesse and strategic foresight. Competing visions of market leadership had to reconcile with mutual dependencies, eventually influencing broader geopolitical strategies. The hope lay with collaborative ventures that underscored shared industry targets, a new narrative where the might and innovation of both countries could redefine automotive excellence. As geopolitical analysts outlined potential scenarios, one thing became clear: trust-building measures and transparent policy dialogues were vital. Multinational forums and automotive expos began to play double roles, acting as market showcases and diplomatic platforms. Whether these interactions would pave the way for harmonized regulations and standards, or perpetuate the status quo of competition camouflaging cooperation, remained to be seen. The impact of these relations extended beyond governments and corporations, affecting global supply chains and consumer markets. Companies in third-party countries had to adapt to the changing dynamics, considering localization strategies or diversifying import sources to mitigate risks associated with geopolitical tensions. Meanwhile, consumers became more discerning, with preferences increasingly leaning toward brands that aligned with their values and perceptions of global ethics. The role of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles emerged as both the response and the catalyst to the industry shift wrought by the shutdown. With their potential to democratize vehicle ownership and drastically reduce environmental footprints, they embodied the promise of a transformative future. In the wake of China's actions, American stakeholders viewed EV adoption not only as a technological pivot, but as a strategic imperative to redefine competitive advantage. Leading the charge were companies at the forefront of EV innovation: Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid Motors, each pushing boundaries, redefining car design, and expanding the horizons of what electric mobility could achieve. Innovations in battery technology, vehicle range, and charging infrastructure escalated, with collaborations spanning sectors previously untapped. Even traditional manufacturers, recognizing the tides of change, upped their electric portfolios to remain relevant and visionary. Beyond technical prowess, the focus on electric vehicles reflected a broader narrative of sustainability, a narrative that drove consumer appeal and attracted legislative support. Government incentives and regulatory frameworks advocated for zero-emission vehicular growth, lending momentum to the EV shift. Navigating this intricate landscape, the American automotive industry sought to emerge cleaner, smarter, and more connected than ever before. Consumer education campaigns also gained traction, highlighting not only the environmental benefits of EVs, but also their cost efficiencies over time. Dealerships began integrating immersive experiences, letting consumers explore the capabilities and advantages of electric vehicles through virtual reality tours and test drives. Automakers launched branding campaigns, not merely selling cars, but curating lifestyles anchored in sustainability and technological empowerment, and infrastructure development played a crucial role in supporting EV adoption. Investments in nationwide charging networks and smart grid technologies were prioritized, ensuring accessibility and convenience for EV owners. Collaborations with utility companies and tech firms facilitated seamless integration between vehicles and energy systems, paving the way for a future where cars could contribute to grid stability and energy efficiency. Consumer trends and market adaptation. Just as the industry recalibrated, so too did the consumers whose preferences redefined market dynamics and growth trajectories. Consumer behavior continually evolves, sculpted by external influences such as technological advancements, environmental awareness, and economic shifts. Retrofit with evolving sensibilities, individuals sought more than mere transport. They desired experiences, efficiency, and engagement with brands resonating on a global scale. In response, car manufacturers innovated in sync with these trends, focusing on personalization, infotainment solutions, and enhanced safety features that catered to hyper-connected lifestyles. These moves reflected a deep understanding of the changing customer voice, a voice that demanded transparency, commitment to environmental stewardship, and transformative mobility solutions. Mass urbanization accelerated the demand for shared mobility solutions, prompting auto companies to explore ride-hailing, subscription services, and car-sharing platforms that satisfied the preferences of millennial and Gen Z populations. The rise of micromobility solutions like e-scooters and connected bikes illustrated the shift from car ownership to mobility access, a significant pivot driven by global macroeconomic realities and changing cultural attitudes toward car ownership. Furthermore, the growing emphasis on health and well-being post-pandemic contributed to consumers favoring mobility solutions that aligned with holistic living values. Connectivity features now integrated health monitors, pollution sensors, and ergonomic designs, reflecting the modern consumer's expanding spectrum of needs. The exploration of alternative vehicle ownership models facilitated greater accessibility and flexibility. Leasing and subscription models gained popularity as consumers prioritized value over long-term commitments. Concept vehicles emerged, blending technological elegance with modular versatility, embracing adaptability as a future standard. Data privacy and cybersecurity also rose as significant concerns for consumers. As vehicles became smarter and more connected, the need for robust data protection measures grew. Companies invested in secure data architectures and transparent data sharing practices, ensuring consumer trust in an increasingly digitized mobility ecosystem. As the market continued to adapt, businesses recognized the importance of fostering customer loyalty through meaningful engagement and value-driven interactions. Loyalty programs, community-building activities, and personalized service offerings became integral to cultivating lasting relationships in a landscape where competition for consumer attention was fierce. Influence on global supply chains. In an increasingly interconnected world, the shutdown of a major industry like the US car industry inevitably rippled across global supply chains. The intricate web of suppliers and manufacturers spanning continents found itself under significant pressure to realign and adapt. For years, these supply chains had operated under the assumption of predictability and steady growth. Now, faced with disruption, they needed to pivot quickly to remain resilient. Automotive components once sourced from the US-China corridor required new points of origin, sometimes leading manufacturers to look toward emerging markets for alternatives. This shift was not without challenges, as establishing reliable new supply lines demanded significant investment in logistics, quality assurance, and partner relationships. Countries like Mexico and Vietnam saw opportunity in this recalibration, attracting investment as they became part of a diversifying global automotive supply network. Concurrently, advancements in logistics technology provided avenues for reducing inefficiencies and bolstering resilience against future disruptions. Companies began deploying AI-driven supply chain management tools to predict bottlenecks and optimize routes. 3D printing, once a novelty, started taking a prominent role in rapid prototyping and localized production, minimizing dependency on distant manufacturing hubs. This evolving supply chain landscape underscored the necessity of strategically broadening sourcing bases to withstand future global shocks. Cultural and social ramifications. Beyond economic considerations, the shutdown precipitated deeper cultural and social shifts that resonated through the fabric of society. In the American consciousness, cars have symbolized freedom, identity, and the open road's endless possibilities. Yet, as these symbols face scarcity and redefinition, societal attitudes toward vehicle ownership and automotive culture began to evolve. This evolution was marked by increasing environmental awareness and the renegotiation of individualistic notions of mobility in favor of communal transport solutions. Younger generations in particular began embracing shared mobility solutions, aligning with a broader trend of valuing experiences over possessions. Car sharing, ride-hailing, and even public transport witnessed a renaissance, reshaping urban landscapes and blurring the lines between personal and public mobility. From a cultural standpoint, media and pop culture began reflecting these currents. Films, TV shows, and advertisements started portraying new archetypes of mobility: solar-powered futuristic vehicles, autonomous car caravans, and virtual reality driving experiences, capturing the zeitgeist of a society negotiating the nexus of technology and mobility. Automakers, attuned to these cultural shifts, increasingly relied on digital storytelling, sustainability pledges, and innovative outreach strategies to resonate with a consumer base that valued authenticity and purpose. Technological innovations. In the face of disruption, technological innovation emerged as a silver lining, a catalyst reshaping the future of automotive design and manufacturing. As the industry pivoted from its traditional pathways, technology-driven startups and established companies alike found fertile ground to push boundaries and redefine the art of mobility. Automation and artificial intelligence became pivotal in shaping smarter manufacturing processes, empowering facilities with the capability to maintain quality and efficiency even in the face of personnel shortages or external shocks. Robots, IoT devices, and data analytics came together to form the backbone of industry, producing smarter, more adaptable factories that learn from every wheel, nut, and bolt assembled. Investment in battery technology and alternative energy storage solutions reached unprecedented levels, driven by the surging demand for electric vehicles. Breakthroughs in solid-state batteries promised longer ranges and quicker charging times, nearing the vista of technological achievements that could finally eliminate range anxiety. Coupled with advances in charging infrastructure and grid management solutions, the shift towards zero-emissions mobility became not just a possibility, but an approaching reality. Yet innovation was not confined to vehicles alone. A concurrent wave of advancements in connected vehicle technology, vehicle-to-everything communications, and autonomous driving systems foreshadowed a world in which cars became integrated nodes in a broader digital ecosystem. As these technologies matured, they promised to redefine our relationship with cars, from that of drivers to passengers in smart, self-navigating ecosystems. Strategic lessons and future outlook. As the industry grappled with the consequences of China's decision, strategic lessons emerged that would serve as guideposts for an uncertain future. At the heart of these lessons was the need for resilience, an understanding that stability relies not on static traditions, but on adaptability and foresight. Manufacturers learned the profound importance of diversifying supply chains, investing in sustainable practices, and preparing for geopolitical uncertainties. Building resilience became not just a business choice, but a strategic imperative, demanding systems that could flex and withstand unexpected disruptions. Equally, there was an increasing awareness of the interconnectedness of all stakeholders in the ecosystem, from manufacturers and suppliers to government bodies and consumers. Collaborative networks, forged through partnerships across borders and industries, became the cornerstone of future success, emphasizing shared goals and co-created solutions. The dialogues that sprung from these lessons informed policymaking strategies, consumer advocacy, and corporate responsibility initiatives. The industry reset, compelled to innovate not just with technology, but with policy and intent. Looking toward the future, the automotive sector recognized the myriad of challenges ahead, yet it also embraced the potential and promise of transformative mobility solutions. In this renewed landscape, a future awaited in which cars might not just be tools of transport, but seamless extensions of our lives, intelligent allies on our journey towards sustainability and connectivity, driven by those who dared to disrupt the status quo. But the question is, how will automakers adapt to this new reality, and what innovations will shape the future of transportation? With global dynamics in flux, our understanding of mobility and sustainability could be redefined. What do you think these shifts mean for the future of cars and technology?